That's interesting. So if you haven't been to a school committee meeting before, normally if you've gotten an award, you're free to go afterwards, right? Thank you for coming. Thank you. Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
of information, COVID-19 related, that the Rhode Island Department of Health has asked all districts to pass along. If you haven't heard, the state is closing the last of its remaining state testing sites. It's part of the effort to shift all aspects of COVID-19 response related to testing and treatment to individual healthcare providers and pharmacists. There's a handout that's also available. We'll list that to our website. For district events, we talked about a lot that happened there at the end of the school year. As you know, we wrapped up the school year last Friday, June 17th. Currently, school and district administrators are putting the finishing touches on summer plans and end of fiscal year or current school year reporting as we get ready to switch over the fiscal year as well to July 1st. And next school year will begin for grades K-5 and 9 on August 30th and all students on August 31st. And then for this summer, just a few reminders. When we return from the July 4th holiday weekend, we will be starting our summer programming. We did have a comprehensive review of those programs a few meetings ago by Dr. Barros. They include, among some other things, our extended school year program, credit recovery, and various ESSER activities that we're able to run some of this. And as we know, due to the asbestos abatement work taking place in many of our buildings, all summer activities will be either at Portsmouth Middle School or mostly the athletic activities or at the PHS house. There's a summary of availability that we sent out. We'll make sure we continue to update people on, but essentially, then the only facilities that will be fully operational will be middle school, the PHS Fieldhouse, and of course the district administration building. When we do return from the July 4th holiday over at the admin building, we'll be shifting to our summer hours, which Monday through Thursday we maintain regular hours 8 to 4, but on Fridays we do shift to 8 to noon hours. And then with that asbestos abatement work, of course, halfway Melville and the main building of Portsmouth High School will be restricted and off limits to all staff and visitors. We are working to ensure we keep the main offices working with our contractor with proper, regulations and ventilation in place, so the main offices stay safe. If anybody did happen to stop by for questions. And then finally, in my updates this evening, we have Mr. Tresman here. We had great recognition for our PHS girls lacrosse team. Mr. Tresman is here to provide just the final wrap up on our entire spring athletic season.
Thank you. Thank you. Any school committee?
Just make sure the button's on.
Down below, right side, right button.
There we go. All right. School committee. Administration, thank you for having me. Dr. Caldwell. Thank you for everything. I know our paths did not cross too often, but when they did, I certainly greatly appreciate your professionalism and then the kind of takes from them in all ways I did see you. So thank you for everything that you've done for us and for our district, most definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. I was talking about our seasons. This season was immensely successful. This past spring, it was great for this group to be out there and to take that next step. 2 years ago, we did not have a spring season because of COVID. Last year, it was greatly reduced, greatly short, and this was a full season for this group. And it was great to see them come out there and perform. And I love that they perform. Kudos goes to our coaches and all the volunteers that perform to making that happen. We had over 300 plus registrants between the high school and the middle school, so we had a lot of people out there participating. It was great to see. Fields were full every single day. As a media, that's awesome to see people walk out there and to see that many smiling and happy faces at games, at events. At the high school, we offer baseball, softball, boys and girls lacrosse, boys tennis, co-ed golf, boys and girls track and field. At PMS, we had baseball, softball, track and field, and unified basketball. Going for, again, as we noted, our girls varsity team, Division II state champions, undefeated season. I was with them last year. They actually made it to the finals last year and then lost in the finals with Kingstown High School. And I can just see the determination on their faces at the end of that game, you know, what they wanted to achieve this year. You see them come in organized, ready to go. Again, credit to our coaches to get them to that point. And it was a thrilling season. It was a great ride to see them go through and to do that. So much kudos to them. On the other side, on our boys team, they finished 9-5. They were the 3rd seed. They also went into the playoffs. We were the highest ranked and highest finishing public school in Rhode Island. And this season, just like in the winter, I made community service projects optional for our team that did not mandate it like I usually do. The boys lacrosse did take the opportunity to do a smooth service night, so all our family members that were in the military, on the police, on the fire, we certainly invited them to have a great evening with us. One evening that we did East Greenwich on that night, and we had a good evening. Our boys varsity baseball team, they had a fantastic ride. They were the 3rd seed in the playoffs. They went all the way to the semifinals. Again, we lost the Kingstown, Cameron's old Palms over there, and we had a good ride. They did a great community service project with the Newport County Challenger Baseball Club. That's individual, intellectual, and physical needs that came out, and they had a great afternoon with them on the field and to see the slide, because that's what that picture is at the bottom there. It was a phenomenal event, and our coaches and our team had a chance to experience that. Our girls softball team at the high school, they were 4th overall. They had 4 athletes placed in all division. They were 8th in the division. Certainly a little bit of a rebuilding year for them, but they certainly came together. The second half of the season was much better than the first half, so we saw some good progress from them. Our golf team placed 3rd in East Division, qualified for the state championship, which they did not last year. Again, showing great progress, and we're 16-4 overall. Certainly had a great year. Boys tennis moved up a division. They were Division 3, they moved up to Division 2. Even still moving up, they qualified for the state playoffs in Division 2 with a 5-10 record. You know, this was a very intelligent group. You know, they had, I walked into their practice one day and they were having this in-depth physics conversation. And I was looking at it, I was like, man, I thought I had a depth on the conversation that they were having. So phenomenal group. Our boys and girls track and field programs. What a phenomenal year they had.
Yeah.
Boys track 2nd in class, 2nd in Eastern Division. Our girls were 2nd in Eastern Division, 3rd in the class. Our boys team set 5 school records. And both on the boys and the girls side, we had individual winners in the New England Championship. Kaden Kluth finished 1st place in the 800 in New England. And then Morgan Casey in the high jump. They also go down and also perform well in the New Balance national league as well. So we had some outstanding performances from those teams. At the middle school level, our baseball team certainly had a great year, a great building year for them. Their record may be done on something. I think I achieved number 1 in there. Our softball program at the middle school were 5-1 overall. They were a division champion and a state champion, division champion. Our track and field programs, and again, how Nancy Mendoza and how Ellen Chilvado manage like 80 to 90 kids that go out there every single program. If you ever see a middle school track, it is like, I don't know how they do it. And it is phenomenal what they do out there. But we had 24 athletes qualified to participate in the state championship. And our U5 basketball team at the middle school level, they finished 3-2 this year. So a very successful year again for them. And as always, thank you to the people that made this happen. This is a community effort. Our custodian, our meeting staff, I know Mr. Roder sometimes likes to walk away when I start walking to him, especially in spring, getting a field ready. He looks at me and just shakes his head on it. You know, they do a phenomenal job for us in everything that we ask. Our coaches in the high school and in the middle school, our athletic trainer this year was Josh King. He came to us from Wayne University. We wanted to come to the high school ranks. Added a real high degree of professionalism to our athletic training ranks, which was awesome to see. Really worked on our emergency action plans this year, which I'm very happy with, and the steps we're taking there. Thank you to our administrative teams at the high school and the middle school. Mr. Runo, Mr. Amaral, I can't thank you enough for the guidance and the time that you spend in terms of the dedication you give to our athletic programs. And Rose, my administrative assistant, you know, eternally grateful for her, for the work that she does. And obviously all the game workers, boosters, clock workers, and our PHS Live crew. They go out there and do a phenomenal job broadcasting our programs. And our home that we work with also with the Green Valley Country Club, that's what we're all can go out there and charge.
Wow.
So
Great.
we want to keep that relationship that strong. So that wraps us up for the year. Thank you for your support this year, it means a lot. And looking forward to a great off season and kids working and coming back in the fall. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much.
Any questions?
Very comprehensive. When they win in the lacrosse, now they have to move up to Division I next year?
So it's usually a 2-year line.
Okay.
In league, we were in the second year. And then being that we won the finals 1 year and then we won it the next year, I think the next line we will move up. to
Division I. Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are you done, Dr. Kennedy? Yeah, okay. Moving on to presentations, we have our end of year data review. Dr. Viveras.
Excellent, thank you. So tonight I'm going to be reviewing our spring 2022 STAR data. I'm going to start with a year-to-year comparison of our district's proficiency data from last spring to this spring. Then I'm going to review our special education subgroup data, and I'm going to be sharing some new data points with the committee that we're finding to be very valuable at the school level to support our students as far as predicting student scoring on RIDECAS and the SAT assessment. Right, so we're going to go ahead and start reviewing our district reading data. In the spring of 2021, 49% of our students were performing at or above proficient. Our spring 2022 data has 52.7% of our students at or above proficiency. When looking at our on-watch and our intervention and urgent intervention category percentages, they've all decreased from the spring of 2021 to the spring of 2022, with our urgent intervention getting close to being below that 5% benchmark, which is where we would like to see our urgent intervention needs. Okay, now for math. In the spring of 2021, we finished the year with 61% of our students performing at or above proficient. Our spring 2022 math data has 67.7% of our students at or above proficiency. So similar to reading, when looking at our on-watch and intervention category percentages, they have both decreased from spring 2021 to spring 2022. Our urgent intervention category has stayed consistent and it remains below that 5%, with only 3.9% of our students needing that intensive level of intervention.
I'm sorry, this is K-12. This is the entire district.
This is the entire district.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay. So next up, being that our district has 2 schools requiring targeted assistance plans due to the lack of growth in our special education subgroup, it's really important that we take a look at this specific student subgroup growth. So I'm pleased to report that with changes that Dr. Caldwell and I have been working very closely this year, changes that we've made with our intervention blocks, the addition of the tutoring that we were able to provide through our ESSER II funding, this subgroup has made some significant growth. So in the area of reading, the subgroup started the year with 9% of the students at or above benchmark, and with 37% of this subgroup's population needing urgent intervention. We now have 14.7% of our students at or above proficient, with 21.6% of students needing urgent intervention. That supports just over a 15 percentage point decrease in urgent intervention needs in the area of reading. In the area of math, we started the school year with 16.8% of our special education students at or above proficiency, and now having 25.6% of our students in that subgroup at proficiency. Our urgent intervention numbers in math didn't have that same desired drop as reading, but there was still a decrease from 23.9% to 21.8%.
Ms. Rhodes, Ms. Rhodes, you can take that bar and just slide it over to your other screen so it doesn't cover just move it all over to, you have two screens here, right? Can it go, oh, it can't go all the way down to the, I was just thinking so it wouldn't cover the title. Okay.
Okay, so the next several slides, they're going to be reviewing some new data points that I wanted to start sharing with the community. Our STAR assessment data is now linked to both of our state assessments, which are RICAS and the SAT. Renaissance states that the metrics used are highly accurate predictors of students' performance. I included some research on both of those in your backup. So our hope is that moving forward, we're going to use these predictors when reporting out. We can generate these reports for RICAS and SAT during our winter and spring benchmark periods. And then in the fall, I can actually report out on the actuals. So we can take the predictors of the winter and the spring and then compare them to the actuals in the fall. So my hope is to start moving in that direction. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start with Melville. So it's predicted that 51.5% of our third grade students will meet RICAS benchmarks, both in reading and in math at Melville, with 54.1% of our fourth grade students meeting the RICAS benchmark in reading and 65.6% in math. In this comparison, again, it'll be really nice because we'll be able to actually look at that third grade group and then compare that third grade data when we get it at the start of the year. All right, next is Hackaway. So it's predicted that 62.6% of our third grade students will meet RICAS benchmarks in reading, 62% in math for third grade, and in fourth grade, 52% of students meeting expectations in the area of reading and 56.1% in math. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move to our middle school. All right. Okay, so now for the middle school. In fifth grade, it's predicted that 59.1% of our students will meet RICAS benchmarks. Again, that's comparing their STAR assessment data from the spring to what they're predicting the students will have taken the that assessment also in the spring. And in the area of math for fifth grade, we have 52.6% as the predictor. For sixth grade, 53.3% are predicted to be meeting benchmark for RICAS with 42.3% in math. All right. In seventh grade, it's predicted that 39.7% of our seventh grade students will meet RICAS benchmarks in reading and 62% in math, with 49.7% of our eighth grade students meeting the RICAS benchmark in reading and 36.3% in math. So using these new benchmark predictors, we're going to be able to have more accurate account of which students are not on track to meet the benchmark, allowing us opportunities to further support those students. So with the use of our ESSER III funds, we've secured an additional reading and an additional math interventionist at the middle school level. We're also providing summer intervention for students needing that tier 3 intervention throughout the summer months this year. Great. So now I'm going to shift our focus to the SAT prediction data. In ninth grade, in the area of evidence-based reading and writing, ERW, 68% of our ninth grade students are on track to meet benchmark and 41% of our students in math. Now, ninth grade math is an area that our district, we've flagged as an area that's needing additional support. So because of this, we've used a portion of our ESSER III funds to support additional math interventionists, specifically to the ninth graders. This will begin throughout the summer with an Algebra 1 ramp up and an SAT intervention for both ERW and math. And throughout the school year, we've added those 2 math interventionists specific to ninth grade, and they're going to support the needs that we just observed with our eighth grade data that we're for the students moving up. Okay, so in 10th grade in the area of ERW, 69% of our 10th grade students are on track to meet benchmark, with 52% of our students on track to meet the math benchmark for the SAT. And in 11th grade, in ERW section, the SAT prediction is that 76% of our 11th grade students are on track to meet the benchmark and 47% in math. So as I kind of wrap up that piece with the STAR connection, I just wanted to add that the accuracy of these high school STAR scores weigh heavily on the student and the teacher buy-in for the assessment. That was a big part of me wanting to start to look at the predictors for SAT versus the accuracy, because they're setting the benchmarks for accuracy. Sometimes those numbers really don't connect and correlate, and because the teachers and the students don't see that connection, it's hard for them to build that buy-in to want to succeed on the assessment. My hope is that now that we have these predictors and we're starting to have only conversations about how we can support the students with that ultimate assessment, which is the SAT at that high school, that it's going to further support the work that we're doing with those teams. That's all of the data in a nutshell. I know that it was a lot, and I am sure there are questions. So we'll take some time to answer them.
We'll open it up for questions. Mr. Payero, I saw your hand first.
This is a lot. So I have two questions, and I think you kind of started with it. But I know we have like the predictor when it comes to enrollment and how it's pretty spot on for the most part year after year. But we know what the deviation is on that. So we know what the deviation is going to be, or do we have to have this for like 3 to 5 years before we can know that?
So I don't know that off the top of my head, but it's interesting that you just brought that up, because similar to our enrollment, we also have to look at these predictors with a little bit of a different lens, because we do have a bit of a transient population. So we have students that sometimes will, like, let's say, take RICAS, move, because they're military and they typically are moving in that May, June month span, and then they don't actually take the STAR assessment. So when I'm looking at these predictors, we may have someone that did really well or poorly on RICAS, and it may not be connected to that STAR data. So that's one piece of it. But it's going to take, I think, a few years of us really understanding just how far off were they. I know that when the predictors for RICAS first started, I was at Melville as principal, and I used those predictors, and we were within percentage points of accuracy. Now, I certainly am not the mathematician behind the metrics that go into this, but Renaissance feels very strongly that their predictors are very close.
And then the other one I have, can we, and this is kind of based on one of the slides, can we have predictors on an individual student based on their done?
We do,
Okay, good.
yes. Yes, individual student reports.
Okay, perfect. Because then as a parent, that's like what I was.
And I think that that's a really great tool too for our teachers, especially again at the middle and the high school level, where students are really understanding that they can actually chart themselves and they can work at developing a plan to improve.
This is probably a good opportunity to just remind as well, there's another piece of data that I'm working on that will be part of my year goal. Submission to you, and that's based on the actual assessment data when we receive it. It's entirely based on that. So these predictors are based on STAR tests that we're able to give several times a year. Then we'll have this other subset of data, right? That'll be the actual results and some goals that we set around that. So again, hopefully at some point we'll get better at aligning those two pieces of data as well. Just kind of help us have that.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. McDade?
Okay. A couple of questions about the predictors. Are the predictions based, as I recall, using STAR tests?
Yep.
It's basically the overall score range indicates the prediction. Is that correct? That they're looking at
It's
the
like a
test as a
scale.
whole.
Yeah, so we are looking at the test of the individual student as a whole, and there's a scaled score. And as they take the assessment, and depending on what month they're taking it, like the metrics change. So they could be on, they could be on course to meet benchmark 1 month, and then the following month slide back. So I think that's why we're really only looking at like that final end of the year. Yeah.
And based on the numbers that you just showed us, just in general aggregate terms, do they seem to be on target with what you've seen in the past from these kids?
So they seem to be, actually, it's fun, I put the link in of my beginning of their presentation on my notes because I thought it was important. Like if you ever wanted to go back to, it was November 16th, I think I presented on all of the data. It's nice to see the two. It looks like we're making some improvements. And we have to remember the 3rd grade, that's brand new, right? So we don't have any scores for that group. So you can't look at that 3rd grade and compare it. But if you look at the 3rd grade from the fall and then look at now this 4th grade data and start to make those connections. And those are conversations that I know they have in schools.
So I had one question. Can we go to the 7th grade math? Can you tell me again, based on your notes, what did you say the 7th grade math was?
So 7th grade math was 51.7%.
Oh, you did say that. Okay. Predicted to be at proficiency.
Yeah, but in the 8th grade was the lower one at 36.
At 36. So what I'm trying to remember is when we had the initial presentation on the STAR data at the end of the year of COVID, and that was positive in the sense that it showed growth, but it also showed a real drop. And I'm trying to kind of remember comparison from there to there. Are we better off now? These seem low.
So I actually do have that information that I could share with you. It's tough because we didn't take the assessment in the spring, so we took it in the winter. I have the winter data that I can share with you, and I did create a chart just for myself to see where we were. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're on our way, and we definitely need gains, but we're not where we were
Pre-COVID.
in the winter before.
So I mean, I do hope that parents hear that we're putting all these supports in and there's all these summer programs, because unless we kind of engage and recognize that, there is some catch up to do from the COVID learning loss, I mean, we still need to do some of that.
And we are going to, unfortunately, still see that. Like, when we look at our 3rd graders, we look at the 2nd graders. The 2nd graders this year have yet to have a year that really is normal from start to finish, right? So when they get to 3rd grade and now they're taking the RICAS assessment, so we can only work so fast in the time that we have, even with all of the additional before school, after school, summer, and then the fact that some families don't want to send their students, and I can't blame those families, right? It just depends on what works. So we're going to continue to work really hard. I think that at the end of next year, when we've allotted a great deal of ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds to support these additional interventionists and additional performing after school programs. And I think, budget conversations might look a little different. We're going to really need to use this data to derive what supports do we feel we still need now in place that we may have to look at funding to continue to see this achievement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, appreciate that report. Moving on to approval of school committee minutes. May I have a motion, please?
I move for the approval of the school committee minutes for June 7th and the executive session for June 7th.
Second.
Changes, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 5-0.
I move for, business item A, the discussion and action on this. Oh, no action, okay. Discussion on the submission.
So we have to submit this to RIDE.
Okay,
Even though it's a very early, design.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
okay, so discussion and action on the submission of bathroom renovation schematic design to the Rhode Island Department of Education for Hathaway, Melville, the middle school and the high school.
Dr. Kenworthy.
So this was the AI I was talking about that was approved recently by our district building committee. We have Mr. Conti here from Studio G, who is going to walk us through a brief presentation. And this is a initial, very early schematic design, but it is part of the process because this will be our major project next summer. And we just want to make sure that we stay on schedule for those.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. You can expect that we will be making a number of presentations like this at every design submission, schematic design, design development, construction documentation for every project we plan on moving forward. So if we go ahead and start with the agenda, I do want to just go over the existing conditions that have prompted this restroom project, show you the proposed improvements, talk about some of the design considerations that we have developed as a group, go over some of the particular issues that I was able to uncover when we interviewed the principals to review the project, talk about our budget and submission, and then the next steps. So the existing restrooms, they're not all accessible, as you may know. The restrooms are inefficient and the finishes are worn. So it is time for a major investment in these facilities within all 4 schools. The next couple of slides just show the existing conditions. This happens to be Hathaway. Kudos to the teachers and staff that did make an effort to improve that space. We do appreciate that. In fact, that was sort of a concept to move forward within the bathrooms that maybe messaging is a good idea in terms of super graphics on the walls. Next image, Melville, again, same as Hathaway, struggles with accessibility issues. The finishes are worn and the bathroom's not really laid out as efficiently as possible. Middle school, again, the way it's set up, not very private. Finishes are worn and terribly inefficient, and also at the high school. Again, we want to improve the quality of these spaces, bring a sense of dignity to the students, and certainly accommodate those that may need a single user bathroom as well, and including the staff. So the proposed improvements will begin with Hathaway and Melville. We want to introduce a concept that is quite common now in elementary school construction, which is called an airport-style restroom, where the sinks are just brought out from within the bathroom itself, closer to the hallway where observation of hand washing, where instructors can keep an eye on the students. When we do that, and we are able to reduce some of the plumbing fixtures because we have additional restrooms without facilities, we can introduce single-user restrooms for those that need that accommodation, which are also accessible, as well as a janitor's closet. The fixtures that we are proposing for all 4 schools are touchless and ones that can easily be maintained and cleaned and reduce, obviously, the flow of water. Next slide. This is a preliminary rendering and concept that some of you may have seen for the elementary schools. We're working on the level of finishes, how we can properly identify markings for boys and girls, so there's no confusion on what side of the restroom they should be using. Here you can see that from the hallway, you can see a single-user restroom to the right. The janitor's closet, a little bit you see on the image that is on the left side. And then you see the sinks along that common wall where hand washing can be observed. Next slide. This is Melville, same concept as Hathaway. We're able to use the existing space in the same way. Next. The middle school has two groups of 4 bathrooms. Boys and girls, 7th and 8th grade, boys and girls 5 and 6, boys and girls 7th and 8th, boys and girls 5 and 6. We want to renovate those in their entirety. My meeting with the principal there during the schematic design revealed that perhaps our concept of a complete open bathroom from the 5th and 6th grade to the 7th and 8th grade, uninterrupted, is really not appropriate. So in this design, we are going to put a wall back in that separates the boys and girls 5th and 6th grade from the boys and girls 7th and 8th grade. We are able to still provide the single-use restroom and janitor's closet on both sides in both sets. At the high school, we're going to be addressing bathrooms in the D wing and in the A wing. And in my conversations with the principal of the high school, it was revealed that the bathrooms in the D wing that we had opened with doors to the corridor would be most appropriate flipped so that the doors were actually open to the cafeteria. The bathrooms in the D wing are only open during lunchtime. So if we put those doors on the cafeteria side, it's going to help them tremendously for monitoring and supervision. Now, that drawing does not reflect that. That was our conversation. When we want to provide that single user bathroom, just as we're providing it at middle school and Hathaway and Melville, when we provide that one at the high school, we're going to put it on the corridor side. So not only does it service students who need single user bathrooms or staff that need single user bathrooms, but across the hall is the life skills wing. So life skills will have immediate access now to a single user accessible toilet facility. So that was all a great conversation, minimal impact on the cost. This is really about just flipping over the bathroom. The other bathroom we're going to be renovating is the boys and girls bathroom in D wing, which is similar to the one, in A wing, which is similar to the one in D wing. I think I have an image here. We were thinking that the middle school and the high school bathrooms will be similarly designed in context. We'll try to provide a little bit more of a sophisticated look to the bathroom facilities. No real deviation between colors, whether it's male or female. Certainly provide the same level of finishes. Floors that can be easily cleaned, walls that are appropriate for being behind, toilet fixtures, and again, touchless features going forward. Next slide. So some of the design principles that we came up with, obviously touchless fixture, they're more sanitary and reduce the potential for paper vandalism.
So no paper towels.
So right now we're proposing no paper towels, air drying in all 3 grade levels. Hand washing can be observed in the elementary school when we move the hand washing basins onto the corridor side. And we're providing single user restrooms that can be used by staff, students, and those that are disabled at all 4 schools. Next slide. So this was just a schedule of when I had the opportunity to meet with principals to review the schematic design. Next slide. So regarding the budget, it is not uncommon at schematic design to be over budget. At Hathaway, we are about 20% over budget. Melville at 16, the middle school at 23, the high school is under budget by 27. So what we want to do is in the design development phase, with some of the information that we have from the principals, information that we have from our third-party cost estimators, is to see where we can reduce cost and further enhance our design. So the cost estimator has limited information this time to put together his estimate. So we're developing the documents, keeping in mind that we want to be mindful of cost, even though we have estimated this during the time of COVID. Cost of construction has significantly increased just over the last 6 months. Now conversely, our flooring abatement project has all come in under budget. One thing, and I don't want to overly complicate this, but I want you to keep this in mind. The RIDE MOA that you have is for a total dollar amount at each school. It is not tied into each one of these projects. It is for each school. So we are able to submit these projects at SD, even though we are over budget from the amount that we associate to each one of those projects. So our goal is to start to narrow that band so that when we go out to bid, similar to the abatement projects, we either come in at the budget that we established within that overall school number or below, so that we have additional contingency amounts for the projects that are later in line or things that you may want to do at the end of this campaign. Right now, our estimates, our estimates include escalation and design contingency. So as we progress, that design contingency will come down. So the percentage of being over budget would be reduced just by that. And we are carrying escalation, recognizing these projects aren't going to be constructed until next year. So that's important. We don't want to be on budget today because 6 to 9 months from now it may look different. And it could look different in the other direction as well. Next slide. So our plan is to, with your approval, submit the schematic design package to RIDE. We will continue to investigate cost savings during design development. And then we will be back to you to submit the design development package in August.
I don't want to interrupt. Is that the
That's
answer?
it.
So up to what point do we have opportunities for input, change, modifications?
So we will develop the design of the DE package. We will meet again with the principals to say, this is what we heard you say. This was our response. This is the next step. So I would probably say, probably in August, again, before we make another submission. What we want to do is to just stay ahead of the curve a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And I know you could say, hey, we're not doing this until the summertime. Why do we want to move forward as aggressively as possible? That's because we want to get an idea of the costs on as many of these projects as we can as soon as possible, so that we can make the right decisions for each specific one.
And sorry, I'm jumping in here. I should let everybody else go first. So are we going to have a sign outside the doors, like at the airport where you have little stick figure boys and the stick figure girls? So that, I mean, I know the designs are lovely, but if you have a visitor coming into the school, they may not get it, right? So that they'll know which side's the boys and which side's the girls.
So again, by code, we have to identify each
Okay.
facility with signage. If
Okay.
it's an appropriate size, height, braille.
So that there'll be that as well as the
There'll be
designs,
that.
because I didn't see that on the wall.
So, full disclosure, we typically leave that off the renderings because it doesn't look as good.
No, that's okay. I just was wondering about that. And the other thing I think it's important to get out there that even with these changes and moving to single user small stalls, because this came up in the subcommittee, we're still meeting all the required number of toilets and sinks and that per school. So even though we are reducing some fixture counts, we still meet all the requirements per classroom sizes, students, and handicap.
Yes, and we are including that as part of our RIDE submission. The design portal, there's a series of tabs that we need to provide information for. One of the tabs that we're providing information for is a plumbing fixture count for each school. That says what we have, what's required, and what we're proposing. So yes.
Anything concern you? Is there anything we should be aware of or worried about that?
I believe.
Other than
we'll
the
have to
costs?
Peel back some of the finishes that
Yeah.
you've seen in the renderings. You might not be able to take the tile up as much as you may have seen in the images. You may not be able to have 4 different colored tiles, maybe 2. I'm thinking that's really it. We may not be able to do maybe something up at the ceiling in the sock, but that may have to be value engineered out. So obviously, we're not changing the quality of the toilet fixture or the plumbing or the electrical or the exhaust. Obviously, it's going to be accessible. We want to have materials in there that are durable from a maintenance standpoint. So I think it's just going to have, we're just going to have to maybe take it from a 10, maybe dial it back down to 7 or 8.
Something I learned sitting on the committee was that, you know, how when you go into the elementary school, they have the really tiny little toilets. You don't do those anymore. So these are all kind of standard fixtures. So they go across the schools and that's what you're planning on, right?
That's what we were proposing, although and we met with the principal at Hathaway. 2 things that came up there. One is that we want to make some accommodation for a de-escalation room that we may be interfering with the bathroom renovations. So we're going to be working with her to address that. And also, who is using those bathrooms on the first floor at Hathaway? That may impact maybe the height of the fixture where it's mounted.
Where
So
it's
we-
mounted, but not the act. So I guess what I was getting at is that all the fixtures will be the same. So we're not worried about these, you know, like having to source and repair different fixtures.
That's our goal.
Yeah.
We certainly have some play in the adjustment of the heights.
Of the height. Okay. Other questions? Thank you. I'm really glad we got this out there and I hope that we put this on the website and schools put it on their website so that, you know, when we get to the point of saying, here they are, these are the bathrooms, you know, people don't come back and say, what? We didn't know that was going on. So now's the chance, folks, if you have comments, questions, now's the time. So thank you. That was really helpful. So Dr. Kenworthy, we need an approval of the schematic design that will then be sent to RIDE, but it is not tying us into anything. We still have a few more months to refine and.
Right, that's the schematic design for each. You see there are several phases there. Have to get a few of those in this presentation. So this is just the initial schematic design we need to submit as part of this process.
Yeah, and that was obviously very helpful to go out to the schools and get their feedback so that they'll be the best for each school. So other comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, calling the vote. All in favor of approving schematic design? Any opposed? Unanimous, 5-0. Thank you very much. Okay, item B, Ms. McDade, I think this is policy.
Mhm.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I move for discussion and action policy GCB, which is crediting related experience as teaching?
Second.
We have a final view of this one, this was policy we discussed last week. And where they.
Sure. So I am asking us to move right to the final read just because of where we are in the school year and about to, you know, as we're getting ready, you know, to do more hiring for next year. So this was an existing policy already. There's only one change in this policy, and that is so our current policy that this would be replacing with your approval allows me to give credit to 2 steps on the salary scale for similar experience, and just for clarification, this is professional experience beyond teaching. So we're able to credit teaching experience, where we have a very comprehensive process that we follow through Mrs. Aguirre in our HR department. This is for professional experience that individuals may come in from clinical settings. You know, so most typically comes up on our nursing special education side. But we were finding last year, particularly, I can tell you that we lost a couple of candidates because we were not as competitive as some other districts. So raising this to a maximum of 4 steps on the salary scale will allow us to stay competitive in our hiring.
Okay. Seeing no questions, all in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 5-0. Business item C, please.
Discussion and action on salary increases for individual contractors.
We have a second. Thank you. Dr. Kenworthy.
Thank you. So this is the last group of our current employees who are individual contract employees but did not have a contract renewal throughout the school year. So we do have a handful of individual contract employees. They had a contract approved at the the new contract approved at that time, you would also approve a salary for next year. So these individuals, I will just read through quickly, are who would this action item would be pertaining to. And in personnel subcommittee earlier today, we did have approval for a 3% salary increase for individuals who stand in line with other decisions we've made. So this action item will affect Mrs. Kimberly Dwyer, Director of Human Resources, Dr. Lisa Colo, Director of Personnel Services, Chris Diora, Director of Finance, David Farley, Data Manager, Colin Grimsey, Director of Freshman Academy at Pleasant High School, Paige Irwin Claire, our Director of College and Career Readiness, Danielle Laurie, Principal of Melville Elementary School, Lisa Little, Principal of Hathaway, the Rhodes Administrative Assistant to the Superintendent of School Committee, Chad Smith, Director of Student Services at Portsmouth High School, Steve President, Athletic Director, and Turcotte, Assistant Principal of Teaching and Learning at Portsmouth High School, Dr. Elizabeth Navarro, Deputy Superintendent, and Mrs. Patricia Wenzel, Administrative Assistant to the Portsmouth High School Principal. And our remaining individual contract employees who in their contract need you to make an approval for a salary decision for next year.
So I think we need to add the percent.
I did mention.
Oh, you did mention it. Okay, so we just 3%. Also like to thank everybody for holding at 1 and 1.5% over the last 2 years. So much appreciated for that. Other comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 5-0. Thank you very much.
Move for discussion and action on the 2022-2023 substitute and part-time employee rates.
Second.
Dr. Kennedy.
This was another item that we had approved by personnel subcommittee earlier today. And this is one of the last remaining action items related to personnel for this year, where we set the rates for next school year for our substitute and part-time employee rates. So again, with this is where last year we developed a very comprehensive list and review of these positions. She connects with surrounding districts to make sure that we stay competitive. So there were some increases to these various rates, and again, all were approved by our personnel subcommittee today.
Questions? So these include substitute teachers, long-term subs, clerical subs, nurse subs, special aid, safety officer, all of the groups which are paid on an hourly or per diem rate, correct? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 5-0. Thank you.
I move for discussion and action on the superintendent evaluation process timeline.
Second.
Dr. Kennedy.
Here's another item that was approved earlier today, personnel subcommittee, just annually, one of the last orders of business for the district, as once we wrap up everything for the school year, we have an evaluation process in place for every individual. So for my evaluation, which is conducted by the school committee, we do have a process that we follow, an instrument that we use that you're familiar with. And then last thing is just updating the dates that we'll be looking for submissions. So this will take us through the summer, and then typically you finalize and approve my evaluation at around August.
So we currently have July 29th is when the superintendent completes the self-evaluation. August 12th, which is a Friday, is when members would submit their individual evaluations to me. And then we would meet an exec on the 23rd. I've had a request from a school committee member that we bump that August 23rd meeting to the first meeting in September. And that would be the 14th, I believe. So we could also be a little bit more flexible on that August date since we're not meeting the 14th, but we could also, and for new members, we encourage everybody to meet individually with the superintendent or can meet in groups if you have any questions. It's normally done. So we schedule that sometime mutually convenient time. So I'd like to move the August 23rd to September 14th. And we could put, instead of August 12th, we could put August 30th, just to give everybody a little bit more time there. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 5-0. We're all in agreement on everything tonight.
Yeah, I move to table business item F, the emergency authority for the superintendent for the month of July 2022.
So table, that does not need a second. Item G,
I move for discussion and action on, Heather, I think you may have, an issue with the agenda, but paper, yeah. Discussion and action on transfers less than $5,000.
may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Duro.
Yes, so this is a list of approximately 35 transfers, less than $5,000. That occurred since I believe my last report to you might have been in April. The total amount of transfers between accounts is $50,403.45. As you know, you're not required by policy to vote on this, but we do bring it forward and ask your vote just to be transparent. So I will not go through all of these, but certainly if there's any questions you have, specific ones.
Right, and these are all line items that have been transferred, you know, maybe from science equipment to purchasing materials for a biotech course, and all things that the departments have chosen to move within their budget lines.
Yes, every one of these transfers is a request from the principals.
No questions there? None there. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 5-0.
I move for discussion and action on transfers greater than $5,000.
Second.
So these, by policy, we are required. So there are a number of items totaling $22,956.76. The first one, I'm sure you're aware, we're doing a very big project at the middle school this year. We're looking at parking 15 quads and tile. In order to make sure that we could hold all of our summer school and everything in the middle school, we need to get a couple of those classrooms done, like ASAP, so that we can rotate people into them. So we needed to purchase floor tile for 2 of those spots. So we did that. That was a total of $9,053.76. Second one is our girls ice hockey co-op fees. We co-op with a number of other districts that's run through Barrington. So we are reclassing one athletic account, officials, referees, to another, which is the professional dues and fees athletics to pay for that that came in. And the third one is we've had some repair work done on boilers at the middle school. The actual parts were under warranty, the vehicle was not.
Yeah.
So we needed to transfer some excess funds that EMS account. Total $5,953.
Those boilers are under 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
Heat exchangers burned out. We had the factory rep come down, take a look at it, and they agreed it should not have happened, so they replaced the parts, according to the warranty.
Yeah.
In addition to that, do you have any explanation of expectation going forward? This happening again with the board?
I didn't speak to them personally. That probably would be something we have to follow the facility director on. I'm sure they had a long conversation about it.
Yeah.
Do you know how long the warranty is for the parts?
Top of my head, I'm not sure. I want to say it's 10 years. These were edge like we bought them years ago. I'm not exactly sure on the warranty. I think certain parts are a little bit different than other parts.
And then can you help me understand what we're getting for the girls' ice hockey?
So I think there are 3 different towns because there are not enough participants for girls ice hockey to have their own teams. Play to come together, form a co-op. The cost of the co-op is split on a per pupil basis. So the cost of transportation, ice rink rentals, referees, whatever it is split once the season's over. And an invoice comes from Barrington for our people.
Thank you.
All right. Calling the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 5-0. Thank you very much.
I move to table business item I, the Uni Portsmouth contract.
Great. No need for a second on that for tables, but that will be on our next agenda. So we hope. Okay. May reports, Mr. Diro for financials.
Yeah, so we're, believe it or not, at the end of the year, I guess we have another, couple of the 9 days or so, and then we'll be closing out the year. You have the B report, things again, pretty good, we still are trending towards a small surplus for the year. We'll know a lot more, probably by the 15th of July.
Mhm. Not a lot of snow removal this year.
Not too much, we were able to, we had a few storms.
You never know. All right, we don't have to approve this. It's just presented with the cover letter. Any questions?
Question.
Yes.
We'll hear back from Little Compton.
As part of the final decision, I do not think they're planning to take up the current discussion again until the fall. They wanted to do site visits this summer, and we haven't even settled on a date to do that here yet.
It would be for the next school
It would be for
year.
next year, next fiscal year. We're coming
No,
from-
No, 2 years from now.
Right, yeah, so, yeah,
They're with us 22, 23.
Okay, thank you.
we're coming through next year.
Yes,
23, 24.
yes.
So they don't have to be in a rush.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you very much. So we have no meetings July. I'm sure everybody's going to miss us, but that's okay. And our next meeting will be August 9th. Is this the one that we're not in the town hall?
Not here, because the council, everything was shifted in because of the big 3-day holiday, so we'll probably be out of school.
Out of school, and all the schools are closed except the middle school, so
Yeah, depending on what the project.
we'll either shift the date or we'll be at the middle school. So thank you very much. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Unanimous 5-0. Have a good evening, everybody.